Buenas noches, ¿sí? Ya es de noche. Bien, hoy voy a hablar del Día de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead. That is a festivity that is celebrated in Mexico, but it has its origins in the pre-Columbians indigenous communities of Mesoamerica, Central Mexico, the Maya, the Aztecs, and other civilizations that were in the what is today present-day Mexico, parts of Guatemala. So the day, El Día de los Muertos, or the Day of the Dead, is a celebration that they honor the loved ones that have passed, or friends, or important people in your life that have passed. In certain ways, we have here in the United States a day that we also dedicated. ¿Qué día es? Memorial, no? Memorial. So I'm going to talk mainly about Mexico, how this came about, how Catholic religious festivities intertwine with these Aztec indigenous festival or festivity.
What is that last word? Did that come last one?
Día de los Muertos que han fallecido. There means they have passed.
Okay.
Yes, they're in español, but I will speak in English. Pero si ustedes quieren, hablo español. ¿Español o inglés? Ambos, okay, dicen ambos, ¿no? So you have here, ustedes pueden leer, we have some beginners, so I will focus on English, and then following, Ignacio is going to talk about some other festival. The festival is a little bit of Halloween y el Día de Todos los Santos. ¿Cuándo se celebra? ¿Cuándo se celebra? ¿Qué significa cuándo? When. Clase, you're doing better than my 11:15 beginner class. I've been teaching cuándo, and they say, ¿cuándo hora es? No, ¿qué hora es? No, ¿qué hora es? No, ¿cuándo? Well, sí. Okay. So en México se celebra el 1 y el 2 de noviembre, November 1st, November 2nd, where family and friends go to the cemetery, they set up flowers, they clean the tombstones, they put incense, flowers, candles, so they lit. This is primarily done in the central area of Mexico and rural areas. Oaxaca is a well-known city. If any of you would like to travel, is now considered this celebration UNESCO World Heritage Patrimony. That's what you call Patrimonio de la Humanidad by UNESCO for the festivity El Día de los Muertos. So, el 1 de noviembre in Catholic religion, it is celebrated All Saints Day. And in Mexico, that day is, they believe, the souls of the children or the innocent arrive. And then on November the 2nd, the adult ones arrive. Let's see, this is kind of creepy. No, we have to understand and be open to other cultures and beliefs. Now, this is not celebrated in any household, nor in big cities. No, so this is just, like I said, it's an option for some of the Mexican people. But it's becoming widely, more popular nowadays, the same like Halloween nowadays. And of course, the Chinese are making money because they sell just everything that you can think. Con la llegada, with the arrival of the Spaniards, conquistadores, the Spaniards in Mexico, the also Catholicism arrived, and they want to convert the indigenous people, and you have the priests, or ¿cómo se dice? Los misioneros, missionaries, saw these festivities and practices, and they could not completely eradicate them, but they made some concessions and changes. So the original festivity of, or the original Dia de los Muertos, that started with the belief with the part of the Aztecs, they link it to the Aztecs. It was a pagan celebration that had to do with a harvesting. Similar to what is Halloween. It's a Celtic celebration that started in Europe and had to do with All Hallows, and usually had to do with harvesting in the fall. So you can see some of the pictures, how richly decorated, outside the cemeteries. I don't have a picture here, but outside the cemetery is a big market. You find all kind of vendors that sell flowers, candles, sugar skulls, food, toys, etc., etc. It's like a market, a big fiesta. Cuando es, as I said, es el 1 y el 2 de noviembre. Sometimes it starts on the 31st, October the 31st. So they spend the night on October the 31st. They had a vigil until November 1st, November 2nd. Even in some rural areas, started on the 28th, from the 28th of October to November the 4th. So almost a week of celebración. Some of the histories, as I mentioned, has something to do with its similarity with Memorial Day, in which you honor those that have passed. In Mexico, it's been celebrated, El Día de los Muertos, more than 3,000 years. It has to do with some of the Aztecs have their goddess and the gods, I can't pronounce Michizcatlan, something like that. I couldn't, maybe any of you from Mexico can help me with the name. They used to have calaveras or skulls, real ones. When the Spanish arrived, he said, no more. That's out of the question. So that's where it came about, the sugar skulls later on, because the Spanish brought what? Sugar and milk. So nowadays they make calavera sugar skulls. Okay, el altar. ¿Por qué se hacen? So in the house, people make these altars to honor and as a remembrance for those that have departed, and they put a picture of the person or several family members, and they put candles, flowers, everything that person liked, maybe favorite food, favorite drink. So you can see in some of these ofrendas un poquito de vino, tequila, cerveza, tamales. You find the famous pan de muerto, the calaveritas, the sugar skulls, the candles, then they have corn and other yellow flowers, the flower del cempasúchil, which is believed to guide the souls to the altar. Also, the altar also symbolizes is the door that connects both worlds, the underworld and the present world. That's what they create in some of the altars. They have like a little arch. If you look, I couldn't find it here. The Aztecs believe that their spirits of their deceased would come every year to visit them. That's why they created these altars, and that's why nowadays they make ofrenda. As I say, not everyone makes ofrendas in their house. Not everyone goes to the cemetery or do that. This happens in certain areas, mostly rural areas. And it is here in the United States, I've seen whether you have a lot of Mexican presence or a lot of Mexican Americans. They tend to do it in schools, museums, higher institutions, restaurants as well. They make it. And they have the famous pan de muerto. This little bread here has like little bones. It's a sweet bread. It tastes very similar to that bread that you make for Fat Tuesday. What's the name of that bread? King's cake. Yeah, same flavor. Okay, nowadays in Mexico there are festivals, parades, people dress up and have a big party, no? They have a big fiesta, and the reason they dress up as a Catrinas, the symbolism of the Catrinas, which is this famous woman. The Catrina is that skeleton-looking woman or man that you've seen. Guadalupe Posada, he was a cartoonist in the 1910s, 1920s, and he made fun of the aristocracy in Mexico, that they wanted to deny their indigenous roots and wanted to be everything like the Europeans. So he made that. Later on, Diego Rivero made famous La Catrina, made a famous mural, and that's when, I don't have the picture here, but I can look it up, and that's why Catrina was incorporated in these festivities. A very interesting fact about the parade and is that in 2014, maybe 2014 or maybe sooner, I'm not wrong exactly, maybe wrong. There was a 007 James Bond movie, Spectrum. The beginning of the movie was filmed with the scene of the parade, el Día de los Muertos. La Ciudad de México, México DF, never had that type of parade. Never. They did it in small cities, but it became so lavish, so nice that from that point, the mayor decided we're going to do this every year. Because it used to have like in small areas or, like I said, rural areas, so now it's kind of like a part of Mexico City. So if you watch that introduction of the 007, any of you watched that movie? See? Yeah, and so that's a very interesting fact. Another, how many of you watch movie Coco? See, there's Coco number 2 coming up, and that's why they make it very popular, no? Coco now made it popular about the alebrije, that's mythical creatures. Those did not exist in altares. That's a Hollywood made. However, nowadays they become so popular that people are incorporating alebrijes into the altares. That tells you how culture evolves, changes. ¿Qué más? Things that you can find in an altar. As I mentioned, the pan de muerto, the lights, there's 4 elements they need to always find in the element of fire, which is the candles, water, they always leave a pitcher of water for the thirsty soul or for washing their hands to eat the food. That's what they believe. The flower of cempasúchil, that flower is like the greens, no. And then the wind is represented by this papel picado. I don't know if you've seen these colorful decorations they have in fiestas that represents the wind. The bread represents earth, no food, earth. I think, yeah. Then those are some of the elements that they have salt and flowers. Mm-hmm.
You were talking about the 007 movie. Did anybody see Better Call Saul? These 2 brothers, they went just like you said to this small village, like where they came from,
Mm-hmm.
and they parked way down the street, and they got out and they crawled on their belly,
Mm-hmm.
like a couple 100 yards into their house, and it looked just like that, the altar. So they was celebrating somebody who died.
Yeah, yeah. But this is like, they do it like every year as a remembrance, no? This is not the funeral. This is like every year after they as a remembrance, no? So with the funeral, it's a totally different thing. They do this as a remembrance. Like I said, not everybody does it, and it is associated with the festivity. So when the Spanish arrived, they had All Souls, El Día de Todos los Santos, el día de November 1st in Catholicism. So it creates a syncretism, which is a mix of the Catholic Church with El Día de los Muertos, and it creates this new celebration. This is only unique to Mexico, maybe Guatemala, some cities in Central America. In other countries that are Catholics, they don't have this type of celebration. So some people get confused between Halloween and Day of the Dead. It's totally different. Halloween tends to focus on the scary, no? And the Hallows, the boogeyman and the Halloween and all of that. Where here tends to focus more on laughing at death because we are all going there one day. No? So they're laughing at death and there's a way to celebrate. I think that's it. Oh, I have this quick video. How do I play it here? This is a PBS. I'm not sure if it's playing. ¿Cómo le presiono este? I think it's... This is a PBS video that shows...
On the holiday of Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead,
here in the U.S., how it's becoming very popular.
Display of remembrance.
Dia de los Muertos becomes the day with which to honor and celebrate the people who you've lost and the people who you love still.
Arizona State University's Matthew Sandoval researches Dia de los Muertos, celebrated in Mexico and other parts of Latin America each year on November 1st and 2nd.
Even though it's called Day of the Dead, it's really not a singular day. It's a series of days, generally celebrated on November 1st and 2nd, which correspond to the Catholic holy days, All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day. Dia de los Muertos is also the opportunity to honor one's ancestors. And for Mexicans, Mexican Americans, and Latinos, this usually means like honoring the deep, deep ancestors, the holders of our culture, who've been able to pass this cultural practice down over generations or over the ages that we inherit.
The celebrations involve brightly decorated ofrendas, or altars, covered in orange marigold, pictures of loved ones who have died, and their favorite things.
There really is no singular traditional ofrenda, but then it's also a personal expression for the person who I'm honoring. So my father would want certain things on the altar when he comes back. He's going to want the cheapest beer possible on his altar. That's just a part of who he is. So I have to put that on my ofrenda in order to honor him. That's really what makes them artistic pieces for me too, is that so much of them are personal expressions. They're not just cultural expressions, they're deeply personal expressions.
Sandoval says the recent addition of dressing as death in American celebrations is less traditional but growing, as acceptance of Dia de los Muertos permeates American culture more widely.
Masquerading as death is not like a very long-standing tradition of Dia de los Muertos. It's literally like 40 years old, and it's something that like Chicanos added to this particular tradition. And so for a lot of Mexican and Mexican-American communities in the United States, they didn't practice Dia de los Muertos in public, precisely because it was a way to avoid being discriminated against. It was the performing artists and visual artists in the 60s and 70s of the Chicano movement, the Chicano arts movement specifically, who kind of revived Dia de los Muertos and brought it into many communities across California and the Southwest.
In the last decade, Sandoval has seen the question of cultural appropriation popping up around the holiday, but he says many people in the community welcome the participation.
Mexicans and Latinos, Mexican Americans, make it an open event precisely because we know that Dia de los Muertos is also medicine, in a very real sense that it allows people to heal and deal with death.
Day of the Dead is not the same as Halloween, but Sandoval says the two autumnal holidays have become linked, both in America and in Mexico.
Dia de los Muertos is starting to become fused with Halloween in really profound ways, so that people are celebrating Dia de los Muertos where they may have celebrated Halloween in the past, because now this has more cultural significance or just like community significance.
These community celebrations are one way to find closure around loss and death, two inevitable parts of life.
Death is filled with pain and difficulty. The beautiful thing about Dia de los Muertos is that it allows that pain and that difficulty to be transformed through joyous celebration, so that it's not about just sitting in the difficulty of death. It's about activating that in order to transform it through joyous, raucous celebration, colorful celebration.
A celebration meant to honor the past by those who are still in the present. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Casey Kuhn.
All right, give me a second. Switch over to the main. There we go. We're talking about Halloween or Dia de los Muertos. We overlap. This was just kind of like, okay, this is what I did. This is what I did. Okay, well, here we go. Halloween is not as popular as it is in the United States. There's other celebrations. El Dia de Todos los Santos is a big celebration in Spain. Not so much Halloween. It's coming. I mean, Halloween is getting there. It's a 3-day celebration. October 31st. It's not even called Halloween. It's called Dia de las Brujas. Day of the Witches. Then you have Dia de Todos los Santos, All Saints Day, November 1st, and then November 2nd, the Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead. But it's not the Day of the Dead as in Mexico. This is more to remember the people who have passed away. In Dia de Todos los Santos, they go to the cemeteries. They clean it, they prepare it, they wash the area, they put new flowers. It's just a way to remember them. You have some traditional foods that go with it. It serves as a time for reflection and remembrance. You reserve for visiting cemeteries. Notice that cemeteries are a little bit different. This is not what we're used to. It's on the wall. And you slide them in. Traditionalists often view Halloween as a disruption of the Dia de Todos los Santos or Dia de los Muertos, All Saints Day. You have food that's, oh, well, come on, Hispanic. How are we not going to have some food associated with a celebration? So, we have huesos de santo, which is bones of saints. That's what they call it. It's marzipan. I don't know what you all, I love marzipan. And then the other one is buñuelos. They're little fried pastries, and sometimes they fill them. They're usually called buñuelos de aire, air buñuelos, because they puff up and there's nothing inside them. So you can't have something empty. So fill it up with some cream or something, you know. Now, other cultures, in Mexico you have el Dia de los Muertos. Both holidays honor the dead, different customs. The term muertos tend to be avoided in Spain. It is, as Hilda said, it's a syncretism. You have some indigenous beliefs that are already there. Here comes the Spaniards with the religious beliefs. Well, we're just going to combine the two. And so you have this combination of the two different things. The one that the Dia de los Muertos is, the academics are torn on this. They tend to think it came from the Aztecs. The Aztecs were celebrating during that time. They had their own celebration of the dead. And then here comes the Spaniards, and they bring their own thing. So the Aztec Day of the Dead, here's her name.
That's what I'm saying.
Micaelhuitontli. We just call her Mi. Mika was a celebration of the dead that took place during the Aztecs month of guess who? And the Aztecs believed that the souls of the dead could return to the living, so they held festivals to honor them back. Does that not sound like Day of the Dead? Dia de los Muertos. So you have a combination. Okay, we're going to adopt this religious belief, but we're going to keep some of this because the church encourages you have the Catholic Church is the belief of the communion of saints. Basically, we can still, these people that are dearly departed are still able to see us and know us and pray for us, whatever. February 1st is the Dia de los Inocentes, or the Day of the Children, and All Saints Day. November 2nd is All Souls Day, or the Day of the Dead. The traditions include honoring the deceased using calaveras, the marigold flowers, cempasúchil, building home altars, ofrendas with their favorite food and beverages. We've talked about this. And these are the sugar skulls. You can find them. I think they have some here there's places in Oklahoma where you can get them. Matter of fact, my students started giving me them, so I'm thinking I'm going to be excited. I'm like, well, I don't need that much sugar. I'm not talking like, sweets. I'm talking like you bite it and it's pure sugar.
Actually, you would not eat that. You would not eat that because they put, to preserve the sugar, they put,
I'm sure they put other stuff in there just to help it. But
baking soda and some salt. So
they look interesting, but See, Imperial Sugar is sponsoring this.
yeah.
I love that. Here's an example of the altar. You have the skull at the top. You have little picture. You have pictures of the people. You have the flowers. You have food.
One interesting fact is that this is from a Mexican friend. Is that the higher the level the altar, the level is the importance of the individual.
Oh.
It's something that I just learned it recently.
So these guys are not that important, but hey, it's okay. And you always have to have pictures of the person or the people that you're remembering.
And they use incense too, but frankincense,
Myrrh. Trick or treating is becoming part of those traditions. I'm sorry, but the U.S. has snuck in different things. And they don't say trick or treat, or as we used to say in Puerto Rico, trick or treat. We didn't know what trick was. What treat was, we just knew it was just give me candy, person. Whoever you are at the door, give me candy. And that they jump right to it. They just say dulces. They woke up and say dulces. They only approach the houses that are decorated for Halloween. Now, I started researching this up. In Peru, you have el Día de la Canción Criolla. Okay, it is the day of the folklore song, and many traditions you may associate with Halloween are blended into that. Criolla music refers to music which draws its influences from various Spanish colonial coastal musical traditions, from folk ballads, known as vals, Afro-Peruvian jaranas, dance music, and marinera, and let me see this. Where? Little Chicks.
Una vez prendada me quedé de un infiel querer
Those of us over certain age, we
que
know
no me
this music.
supo
I
amar.
love this kind of stuff.
Por eso yo no quiero más amor, me bastan los desengaños y no
So this is what
recordar.
the day is in Peru. They celebrate criolla music.
Yeah.
Halloween is gaining popularity. You go to the big cities, you're gonna see them. In the smaller towns, it's not as much.
It's very interesting because when you see the Halloween in Peru, it's mostly on shopping areas, malls, because there's so much danger. You don't go to house anymore.
Yeah.
Only
Um,
private parties or private events.
Or you go, as it
Little
says over
kids.
here, you go to the plaza.
Yeah.
And you walk around the town plaza or the nearby plaza and have it. Every town has a plaza. And in the plaza you got a church. And you have a little area around it with the fountains and the whole bit, and people will go walking around there. So they just added that. In Venezuela, it is more than an occasion for recollection. If I'm wrong, please let me know. Throw something at me, let me know. It is common to see in the early hours of the morning long queues of people getting ready to go to the cemetery. So you clean the lawn, place some flowers, clean up the tombstone. Make sure everything is, make it nice.
Yes, Venezuela is, people go to church, more than anything, people go to the cemetery.
Yeah.
And then is, we don't have altar like in Mexico.
No.
People put candles on their grave, their loved one. You go there and if you are, more than anything, Catholics are the ones that do that.
Well, yeah.
And then they play the rosary, at least my family, that's what they do. Families sit around and chat and play the rosary and play another rosary.
Yeah.
And have candle and they stay there until the candles start to, they use the little voltage candle. So they stay there 2-3 hours and the candle kind of finish rolling. And then they take fresh flowers more than anything. And, but then it's like she was explaining in Mexico, outside of the cemetery is a market.
Oh,
They
yeah.
have candles, they have flowers, they have
You need it,
all
they got
that
it.
stuff. They have stuff to eat, they have stuff to drink. I mean, all kind of sweet and. But Halloween is become, I guess, the Chinese want to sell more stuff, so they've been introducing that to Venezuela also. It was there because we have a lot of in the boom of the oil industry many years ago. What they call the Campo Americanos, so the English-speaking people that moved to Venezuela to help with the oil industry. They have kind of like enclosed neighborhood. And it was built special for them, and they call Campo Americano. And the American kind of like neighborhood. And they do Halloween. They did. So those kids, they were known from the United States, or son and daughters from that, but all the rest of they start celebrating too. So it passed from that, and then now the new influence of the mask, the thing, the decoration, and all that kind of stuff is the last 15 years kind of like introducing to the Halloween thing. I think it's more Hollywood than anything.
I'm sure of that. I went looking for Guatemala. Guatemala City is divided into zones. I did not know this. Then you have a nice picture with all the zones. Now, people visit cemeteries and do the same thing, but in Zona 10, I don't know what that is. Let's find it. Zona 10 is right here, Zona 13. They have parties and bars. I heard those are the two zones to go to. All the other ones are kind of like lame. And you have elaborate costumes, entertainment. They also have something called barriletes gigantes. They're kites. But the magic word here is gigantes. What does gigante say? Anybody know what the word gigante means? Giant, yes. They're impressive size. That's a kind of a small one, folks. It's a pretty good one. The whole idea is that they're supposed to be able to communicate with the dead. Look at this one. Where's this? These are people. This is Guatemala. These are people out here. Look at the size of these things. They fly them or they leave them there. It's a way to supposedly to communicate, or the dead come communicate. Again, the synchronism of the two.
And it's believed that you write also a wish or something, or a good, you
Oh,
write
you can write
for
messages on there?
You
Yeah.
write messages to the departed, your loved ones, that have departed.
Yeah, really. According to the book Faithful Deceased and Saints of Blessed Souls in Guatemala and Ancestral Invocation, fiambre is a particular, hey, here we go, food again. It was created in the 16th century. With the passage of time, the dishes become more combined with pre-Hispanic and Spanish influence. 17th to 19th century was established as the official dish of the festival. It has meat, vegetables, meat, sausages, cheeses, spices, capers, olives, cold cuts. It's called fiambre because it is eaten cold. So let me show you an example of a fiambre. All kinds of meat, veggies, all kinds of things. Now, modern influences. Let's go back to Spain. Halloween has gained popularity. Children enjoy dressing up. However, religious schools typically do not celebrate Halloween. They maintain more to traditional customs. These are pictures from somebody's online. She moved to Spain, and they had pictures of the kids. Traditionally, it's the time of All Saints' Day. Holiday comes from the Catholic Church, who celebrate Christian saints, especially those who do not have a designated feast or holiday. In the cemetery, you have people go over, clean up, prepare things, put some flowers. As it tells you in here, the celebration has become popular in Spain. In 2000, it wasn't that big. 2012, it has increased quite a bit, becoming more popular. And you have, of course, more food. It seems like all my presentations have to bring in food. Sorry, but Hispanics, we like food. You have gachas de leche, which is kind of like a pudding, and then you have like chunks of bread in there. You have pestiños. Huergueros? Huergueros. You have some covered with caramel cones.
Those are delicious.
And then you have buñuelos de viento. I told you about that one. See, they're empty on the inside, so you gotta get some cream in there. You can't just have an empty one. In Barcelona, it's the popular thing to go to the bars and the nightclubs. So the older teens that can get into the bars, and the adults they go to the bars. The kids, the high schoolers, will go to certain clubs just for them. So they dress up and they dance there, they do whatever. There's no trick or treating, it's just getting together, dressing up, kind of having a costume party. And then you have the influence of the Celts, the Celts, sorry. I always get this. You have castañas. Castaña is a nut, chestnuts. You have sweet potatoes, sweet wine, panelets, Catalan cakes made with marzipan. Almonds are big there. It is celebrated in Galicia and Asturias also. So wherever the Celtic influence came in, because you have the Celtic word, you had them in Ireland, you had them in parts of England, and then of course it can make their way down to Spain. Spain is right south of England, so you gotta have some influence there. That's not me, somebody's ringing, but I'm gonna leave it alone. Here's the castañas, the chestnuts. They're hot. You cut them in the little paper cup. These are the panelets, the assorted sweets. They're made with almonds, marzipan. Look, you got the little pumpkins. And the Dia de Todos los Santos is a vital celebration. It engages in traditional foods. Some countries have combined traditions. Researching this stuff out, I thought I'm not going to have time, and I really don't. It's 8 o'clock. But The Celts used to have a celebration of the end of the season, at the end of harvest, and that was October 31st. So that became a celebration for them. You combine the two when you bring in the Catholic influence in there. So you combine the day of All Saints Day with the Celtic traditions. So the Celts they brought all of that, and in their tradition you have included that because it's the end of the season and you have also the dead. Well, you have to dress up so that the spirits don't recognize you. You walk around with a jack-o'-lantern, which were made out of turnips originally, not pumpkins, and you have them walk so to scare the spirits away from you. So there's a whole bunch of other things to go with it. Not all Spanish-speaking countries are going to do the same thing, as you can see. Mexico's big on the Dia de los Muertos. The rest of the countries is more into the whole Catholic tradition, Dia de los Santos, Todos los Santos, etc.